Welcome everyone to Ecclesia number 10. This is our 10th AMA broadcast, so hope you guys are doing well, and we'll get rolling. As soon as I see some message saying that they can see me live, which would be a good thing to know because sometimes you never know with technology. I hope you guys had a good last 2 weeks. We have accomplished quite a bit, and I think you've seen some of the weeklies that talk about some of the accomplishments on GitHub as well as on the marketing front. So, oh great! So I'm live. So without further ado, let me give you a kind of a summary of what we have been doing. And then we'll get into the thick of things. There are a lot of questions from the community, which is always good. There are a lot of new members in the community, and they're asking a lot of questions, which is good. That means we're getting new people on board in our community, and hopefully that will continue to grow. So regarding some of the bugs that we talked about, one of the main bug is still out there. We haven't uncovered it, and I'll go through why we haven't, because we haven't got the our testnet stuck yet. Because that's what it was intended to do, to find the bug, but we haven't got it stuck. So it's hard to find the bug when it's not appearing again. It's not, it's not happening again. So, but other than that, we made a lot of progress on closing issues and PRs, and we are on a good track for. We're tracking well for March 31st. In terms of the apps, I want to release them by. I want to release at least some of them by end of this month. We'll see how where we are. We're doing Cypress testing, so we want to make sure that the test of these apps are there before we release them. That will pretty much block most of the bugs that we see, and that way you guys don't have to spend time on discovering new bugs that we already know. So that's the intent of having some level of testing before we release them to the public. The other thing we're doing is having all the apps on one network, because before they were on different networks. So now that we have assembled all of them in one network, and you can actually interplay with the apps with one login, sort of like how Google is, where you can interplay with different apps with one login. So we're doing that, and we believe that will help make it seamless for users, whether they're a consumer or enterprise user or both. Okay, so let me go ahead and let's see. Browser select. Well, that's Chrome. Okay, let's see if we can see this. It's always something. Okay, let's try something here. Okay, I think we are seeing it now. I think I had to switch back and forth, and then you're able to see the browser, which is good. All right, so one of the things I want to say is, look, we're doing, as you can see, we're pushing a lot of code on a daily basis. I know some of you have seen the proof of GitHub, which is, we're appearing on the weekends. We're appearing very high, but that's because we're working daily. Some of the other projects are not. But even during the day, we're pushing a lot of code that you don't see. Some of them are not public because they're working on private repos. But this is what we have done just today, right? You can see how many commits we have over the 17 hours. It's not even full day. So that's on the commits. I want to talk about where we stand on Mainnet. So if you look at the number of issues, there are 141, but we have closed. We have closed basically 141, 113. So we have closed almost 30 issues, which is pretty good, which is a pretty good clip rate in the last 2 weeks. And we have about 40 that we intend to finish by the end of the month. So some of them are like this, for instance, Sprint 7 is supposed to be completed a couple of days ago, but they're not because of system test. And so while the code has been written, but the system test is not passing, so some of them are based on that. We need to pass system test in order to finish by this sprint, which is the end of the month. And as you can see, there are about 74 remaining, and we think that about 10 of them will close by the end of the month. So we'll have about 65 going into March. And if we track, if we're doing probably 20 issues per week, if we're closing 20 issues per week, we should be in pretty good shape for March 31st mainnet. Assuming everything obviously works, and obviously everything is going in parallel. The load testing will also do testing on the active set. So all of that needs to be happening in parallel for us to meet that 31st deadline. But looks like we're going to close most of the issues. Internally, the load tests are going on. As you can see some of the activity on the load test. This is the load test we're doing internally. And we're trying to break the system. So you can see it's still, it's still going at a second, one block per second. It's still going strong, even though, we have 9, as you can see, there's about nine miners, 9 sharders down and 27 miners down. So we're basically on the edge, but still going strong. And we're not able to get it to stuck condition, which is something that we would like to see, because we have logs to determine what caused the liveliness problem. Okay, so this is our internal testnet. There's about 90 miners and 30 sharders. So that's our internal testnet that's ongoing. I don't know, there's some junk call. Okay, so back to the sprints. As you can see, there are 74 issues, but as I said, there are quite a few of them, like the ones that Peter is handling, are expected to close this month, along with some of the ones that Yuri is handling. So this number 74 will probably decline by about 10. So if we have 65 issues going into next month, I'll feel pretty good about meeting the 31st deadline. And of course, the apps, on the apps front, but this is only tracking backend issues. This is not tracking apps. We have on the apps, we have several, like the Blimp app, Bolt app, Chalk app, and all that. But those are, I would say, mostly will be going into Cypress testing. So we expect that to close fairly soon, probably end of the month. We will release some of the apps, and then probably the first week of March we will have released all the apps. And we're also engaging with influencers to take a look at our app and basically do a video and increase awareness of these apps as they're coming out. So a lot of exciting things happening, and we look forward to to having, a lot of people look at our apps and have feedback. Hopefully it'll be all positive, because I feel really good about our apps. I've been now focusing more on the app side, because the backend side is in good shape. And I just want to focus on the apps for this week and the next week, to make sure everything we're doing is right, and the UI and user experience is very good, so that when you guys get to see it, hopefully it'll be a very good experience for you guys. All right, so I think we talked about Mainnet, we talked about the apps, we talked about GitHub. So I guess we will now move on to one other thing I wanted to talk about. That's why I wanted to talk about the performance. So we did some performance testing with in comparison with AWS. So let me show that. Let's see this. No, no. Well, okay, let me find it for you guys. 1 minute, let me find it. So, let me go to the channel. I don't know how this got closed, because generally I have it open and I was looking at it. So well, I'll find it. Performance tests. Sorry guys, just to find this. Oh, great. For some reason I had it here and then it disappeared. Okay, well, there it is. Okay, so let's switch back. Okay. All right, sorry guys. So this was done, a couple of days ago, and we're doing several tests since then with different parameters. But the test I want to show you is that for large files, so this is a 450 megabyte file, and you can see that our performance is not as good as AWS for the larger files, but it's still not too bad. This is EC11, which means it's one upload. It's sending the one file to AWS and one file to Züs. It's not divided up. And here you can see it's like taking AWS takes only 7 seconds. For us, it's taking 19 seconds. AWS downloads takes 15 seconds. Ours takes 30 seconds. Now, so what we did was we measured the speed test between the client server and the backend server at AWS and our network, which is at Hetzner. And we discovered that, the AWS network speed is higher. So some of this result is because AWS is inherently the network, for whatever reason, because it goes through network hops, routers, and what have you. It is faster by about 2x on the upload, but on the download, it's not. It's about close, fairly close, but AWS is still faster. But let's see what happens when you now use, let's say, EC21. This is basically 2 data and 1 parity. So what happens is the data is split into 2 and sent to 2 servers, actually 3 servers, 2 data and 1 parity. and of course AWS remains the same. And you can see the drop in seconds. So from 30 download, 3020 download, we go to about 2014 second download upload speed. And then if you go to EC51, which is sending it to 5 servers, now you're seeing the numbers come down quite a bit. It's around 15 seconds and 10 seconds, which actually is quite good for large files. But we're still investigating why for large files we're not as good. Now, if you go to smaller files, you can see, like if we go to 5.1 here, you can see now we're better than AWS. So for 45 megabyte file, if you're uploading a 45 megabyte file, then it will take you, 2.7 or 2.8 seconds on AWS, whereas 2 seconds on Züs. Same thing on the download, it will take you 3 seconds on Züs versus 3.62 on AWS. Now, if you go to even smaller files, say 4.5 megabyte, which is basically what a picture is, like when you download a picture on your phone, now you can see that ours is almost 2x, right? So download, AWS download takes 2.3 seconds. Züs download takes 1 second, less than 1, right? Sub-second. And then you have AWS upload takes 2 seconds, and ZCN, Züs upload takes less than a second. So that result, is pretty good. This is with the latest code, and we hope to improve on the larger files. We'll see what's going on with the larger files, but because our protocol is scalable to larger files, and we just want to see if is it a network issue, or is it our something to do with our code. So that is very encouraging for us to see that we are not only as good as AWS on the high end, on the high files, which is 450 megabyte, but also really good and beating AWS for smaller files. Again, this is a 5.1. It'll get probably better. We haven't tested with 10.15, but I suspect it will get better with 10.15. All right, so that's on the. So that's what I wanted to show you on. That's what I wanted to show you, you on the performance, which is very encouraging, and certainly we can market it as being the best S3 alternative to AWS in terms of performance, in terms of security. Now, I want to go ahead and answer all of your questions. There are a lot of questions to go through, so let me bring that up. This is something that Tiago this is something Tiago has put together from the community, so thank you, Tiago. All right, so these are the questions. Let's see. Okay. All right. So let's go through them. So question number 1, does Züs still have an ongoing partnership with Oracle? The answer to the question is yes, yes and no. We are not, we do not have an active partnership. The active partnership will come probably down the road a little later when we introduce our decentralized S3 as part of Oracle software solution that they can use on the cloud and pipe the data to Züs. And that's our plan. That's on our roadmap. Again, I mean, I know the guys at Oracle, so it's not gonna be, that much work to resurrect the relationship and have our platform out there so that they can sell it to their enterprise. So that's something we're not focusing on. And the same goes for AWS, by the way. We have a roadmap, we have a strategy on working with them, because the way it works is that we can still work with traditional cloud. You can still do compute on traditional cloud. It's just that you could save the data on a decentralized S3 for a number of reasons that are in terms of security, in terms of performance. Second question, what are the main focus and collaboration and partnerships with Huawei, Ocean, Fetch, and lastly Polygons? Okay, so there's a lot of names out there. Let me unpack it one by one. Huawei is a this is look, we're looking at similar relationship with Huawei as with other data centers, where they provide the infrastructure and you can rent servers from them to provide capacity. So that would be the relationship that we would engage with Huawei. With Ocean and Fetch, it's about storing data on our platform because they're doing different things. Ocean is a data marketplace. Fetch is it's more on the AI side. So they're, last time we chatted, obviously they were waiting for Mainnet. So the conversation will get more active after we launch Mainnet, and we will work with their partners, with their developers, and most likely we will be doing more hackathons working with them. Same thing with Polygon. Polygon is a layer 2 roll-up platform, so all contracts, all smart contracts that work on Polygon, they need to store data somewhere, and all the data it's right now it's basically IPFS is the primary place where they store data, and then there is of course Filecoin, Arweave, and SEC and Storj, but there isn't anything close to AWS S3 performance. So that's something we want to address with Polygon, all the companies actually. It's not just Polygon, it can be Solana, it can be Ethereum that are working on their platforms. All Web3 companies should be able to store data on our platform and not AWS. Currently, it's primarily AWS and then IPFS. So those are the two platforms they store data on. Question 3, from the rate 1 to 10, how likely does it seem to solve the rest of the bugs to launch Mainnet in March? Are we on track for 3/31 Mainnet launch? So we're tracking 15 to 20 issues per week. And so if we have 65 remaining, I feel good about closing them by end of March, and most of the critical ones would be closed this month. At least that's what we're targeting. We're focusing on closing the important ones this month, and then obviously there are still more issues to close in March, and hopefully they will be much faster to close. When we look at the next question is, when we look at the demand for enterprise storage, which obvious advantages does Züs have over its competitors such as Filecoin, Arweave, Storj, and SIA? So let me go to the website for this. So you can. So by the way, we changed some of the wordings, the verbiage on the website to address our differentiation, because when they come to our website, they want to know what is Züs, right? What differentiates us? Actually, this is a very good question that is asked by the community. What differentiates us between our other decentralized competitors? So the way I would look at it is that we are the most private cloud. And if you want to build a privacy solution, then you should do it on us. We are also, we can protect the data better than anybody else. And I'll get into why that is so, okay? So we are the first decentralized encrypted data sharing network. That's why we are the most private network. If you encrypt data, you can easily share it with any entity, and the sharing is actually decentralized. And we will have an infographic of how this happens on our website shortly, so that it's easy for you guys to talk to your friends, family, and business partners about what is the differentiation. Why should you use Züs, right? Um, and then the other part is that, okay, if you're not into privacy, if you're not developing a privacy app or you don't care about it, um, it is the only network that has a quality of service protocol to ensure total protection. So the way we protect data is that we challenge, and again, there will be an infographic about what this means. So we challenge the storage provider to make sure your data is not only saved, but also responded fast enough so that it gives you a basis of the quality of the network. So if the service provider has a bad is on a bad data center, or doesn't have a good server, or whatever reason is not a good performer, has an old server or whatever, disks that are malfunctioning, then they won't be able to satisfy the quality of service protocol, and what will happen is their stake would be burned, and you could see in terms of failed challenges what the quality score of that particular blobber is. Yeah, so in terms of differentiation, storing, if you want better protection, I should store on Züs. If you want to develop privacy apps, you should build on Züs, because we have inherently the data sharing protocol, which helps you with your privacy apps. Now we can truly have users control their own data on the apps that you're building and do private sharing. And this will be prevalent. This will be very easily shown on our app. We have two apps that use that, Vault and Blimp. So both of them use data sharing, and would serve as an example for other apps to use those features and incorporate them in reinventing basically all the apps. And that's what we talk about, right? I mean, if we look at our launch apps, we're saying, look, you can reinvent apps with privacy. And we have the tools with the platform and applications to harness the benefits of decentralized storage. The Vault basically is the one that you can readily see. This is a consumer one where you can share encrypted files with friends, right? Same thing with Blimp. It's a multi-cloud S3 where you can have a multi-cloud strategy. So this is basically what we what we're going to talk about. So for enterprises, the multi-cloud S3 is a big deal, because multi-cloud has been talked about for a long time. For 10 years, I've been hearing multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, because all the IT managers want to have a strategy where they can save data and have not only good performance, but you want to have a good protection of your data. And if you can configure, and because we're configurable, that's where the differentiation comes in. You can configure for 100% or up to 100%. You can never achieve 100%, but it's really you're trying to achieve 100% uptime and total protection. It's something that you're designing, you have control over. If you go to other networks, decentralized networks, or even traditional cloud, you don't have that option. You don't have the configurability option. Now with our platform, you have that configurability option where you can try to achieve 100%, or in your mind, what should be the 100% total protection. Okay, so going back to, let me check something here. Okay, so going back to question, I hope that answers the question. And basically the key advantage is privacy and total protection. Okay, and the total protection is configurable. So that's where we separate ourselves from the rest. Now, that doesn't mean people cannot use Filecoin or Arweave. People can store data at multiple places. An example is even on AWS. AWS has S3, and they also have archive storage called Glacier. So you can think of Züs as a S3 equivalent to AWS, and you can store on Filecoin for archival, right? All right. Are there any limitations regarding the scalability of Züs? Of course, there is. If there are 10 million users using Züs every day, yes, we're limited. But I don't know how fast the adoption will be. Hopefully, it'll be fast. But that's a good problem to have, and we will solve it when we get to that point. I mean, there are a number of ways to solve that scalability problem. Every network, every system has a limitation. Whether it's Ethereum, whether it's Solana, whether it's a Polygon, everybody will have a limitation at some point, and then you need to do something. So in our case, there are a bunch of solutions we are looking at in order to scale Züs even more than what we have today. Question 6. Overall, what are the key reasons why enterprises would benefit more from using Züs than its competitors? And I think I dwelled on it a little bit. It's the S3, right? Multi-cloud S3. If you want to design a hybrid or a multi-cloud strategy for your enterprise, and you can configure it, then that's a lot of control and power to the enterprise, which you currently don't have. You don't have it with traditional cloud, right? And you don't have it with decentralized cloud today. You don't have it with any of the solutions out there. I mean, you have to kind of come up with your own, and that's what people do. I mean, if you look at most enterprises, they have a big IT team to solve this multi-cloud problem and make sure data is available. They have disaster recovery solution. They store data in multiple places, and all of that, right? But with a simple solution like ours, you can strategize and be able to make a multi-cloud S3 happen very easily. So that's our clear differentiation from the other solutions out there. And also, if you look at decentralized solution, the QoS protocol would be the key, because that's something that we wanted to make sure that we want to provide total protection and have a quality of service protocol around it. So it's not just about data integrity. Question 7. Once Züs is launched, what is the next focus, and how will Züs start a marketing campaign to get enterprises on board to sign using Züs? So we have already started on this in terms of reaching out to enterprises and MSPs. And the approach we're taking with them is something simple to use first, which is why we developed Blimp and Chimney. So the plan is to go to enterprises and say, look, you don't need any code change. You don't need to do any coding. Just use Blimp or Chimney and get on board. So that's the first step. And that's what we're trying to do with the enterprises, to get them on board using Chimney and Blimp with no code. So if I go back here, it's basically these apps, right? We want them to use Blimp and Chimney. So these two should be, so Chimney is the one that's basically for earning, plug in and earn, right? But really it's for hybrid cloud. So if you have your own server, then you can use Chimney to plug in your server, and then you can also do let's go back here. You can also do multi-cloud S3. So the point is, and most enterprises have their own server anyway, because they have an IT team, they have servers for their own internal use. So now they can stick in a server, they can accomplish the hybrid strategy, right? Hybrid cloud. And they can also do multi-cloud with our Blimp solution, right? So that enables them to use Blimp and Chimney, and that gets them started. That's phase 1. Phase 2 is basically using our SDK to build something, right? It's the easiest thing to do would be to build a high resolution website and have the assets come from from Züs. Same thing and once they get the website transformed, then the next step would be to build a privacy app with encrypted data sharing. So that would be kind of like, first is the crawl approach where there's no code, no pain on their resources, and be able to get something out of it, some benefit out of it that they can show to their management. And then the second step would be to use the SDK and transform their website, and then later on transform their app. If they are good with that, then they can incorporate some of the other apps that we talk about, like the personal storage for their employees, for instance, and then Chalk for their logos, right? So or their digital artifacts. I mean, every company has a lot of digital artifacts that they have within the company that they can market. All right, so that's the enterprise onboarding mechanism. It's basically no code first, then some coding, and then using the other apps. Are there negotiations in bigger enterprises? So typically bigger enterprises will take time. So we're, we will talk to them, obviously. We're only going to talk to the warm ones. So we're focusing on enterprises that use alternate data centers. For instance, the enterprises that use Wasabi, or the enterprises that use Datto. So we're focusing on on solutions that these enterprises are already using that are different from the traditional cloud like AWS, and those are kind of low hanging fruit. And once we get wins, then we can go after AWS. And the route that we're gonna go after AWS and Oracle, for instance, would be more in line with having a solution within their platform. Again, we don't necessarily have to compete with them, because I see a solution where you can do the compute in cloud and be able to store the data on a decentralized network like Züs. So we will enable that solution. That's an easier route for us in working with bigger enterprises. Okay, second batch of questions, security questions. All right. So if apps are to be open sourced, does this pose a security issue? Well, the apps are based on the open source Go SDK or JavaScript SDK. So I don't see how, and that's all open source. I don't see how, if we open source the apps, that'll be an issue. But that's something we're not worrying about, because we're not going to open source the apps right away. We are going to go to Mainnet, and then we will. We also have hackathon apps that we built specifically for hackathons. So if those work very well, then we will probably go with them and not have to open source the apps. So that's something we're looking at to see how the hackathon apps do. So the hackathon apps are simple, like hello world apps, but it has some rudimentary functionality which developers can use and copy and be able to incorporate in their own app. And of course, they can see what we're doing with the other apps. I mean, it's not easy. It's not hard to figure out what we're doing on the other apps for developers to copy what we have done and replicate. They don't have to look into the code, and most of the developers don't really need to look into the code to develop something because they use the SDK at the end of the day. Second question, all apps are web-based. What technology is used to secure the wallet? So if you look at, I think you're referring to probably the token aspects. We use MetaMask for converting the ETH token to ZCN ERC, and then ZCN ERC to native. So it's, and that technology is fairly secure. I don't see any issue using MetaMask to do token transfers and things like that. Third question: how does multi-device authorization technology work with web apps? So, our multi-device is only for Bolt, and it's only for token transactions because we want to keep the ZCN token safe. And so that's used for Bolt app. We do not use multi-device authorization for the web apps on the token aspect. I guess you're referring to split key technology for the Bolt app. So that's only what we use for Bolt app. The split key is used for Bolt app and is for token transactions, for staking, for sending tokens to someone. You can enable split key. Now, obviously, all our web apps, just like any other web app, will have Firebase and OTP authorization technology to make sure when you log into the app, you're the one that's logging in. So that's something that's that's standard technology. Will hardware wallets be supported? Well, we support you could use Ledger with MetaMask or any ERC token. So our ZCN is in ERC token, so you should be able to use Ledger. I'm not sure on the web app you can use it, probably not. So it won't be supported for the web apps. But then the web apps, you're not using you're not sending a bulk a lot of tokens or buying a lot. I would still do that on on MetaMask, with Ledger, outside of our web apps. So our web apps is really for storing data, and like for Chalk, it's supported by us. So it's really small token movement. So I don't see that being an issue. Okay, third batch of questions. Boy, there are a lot of questions. All right, so a third batch is about token allocation, rewards, and distribution. What is the difference between future development, future incentives, ecosystem, and reserve? So, okay, let's go to the website. I believe you're talking about the token supply and some of these wordings here. So, as you can see, yeah, so the future development incentives, it's really about like the future incentives. It's about incentivizing for hackathons, right? We don't have. So what this is all of these tokens are vested on the team. So they're essentially all part of the team. The future development incentives, ecosystem reserve, they're all part of the team, but we bucketed them separately now because there's no allocation for hackathons. And you can have all the tokens in the world, but if you don't give it out to people to try it, then the awareness is not there, the token usage is not there. So what we did is we put the tokens into the buckets where we can distribute them over, let's say, a 10-year period. So this would be like 2 million tokens and so forth, kind of on a yearly basis, that will between 2 to 8 that will, or 2 to 6 that will come out. Ecosystem is about growing the ecosystem with again, incentives to build projects. So there could be grants on building projects on Züs. There's also storage. Right now, if you look at our free storage, it's about 2 million per year. Well, what if we exceed that? So some of it can come from future development or future incentives. We don't know where the bucket will come from. We also plan, to do other things that are not talked about yet, like trivia, in terms of learning tokenizing or gaming, I guess, the learning, where people learn about our technology and they get tokens as a reward. So it's more educational purpose where we can provide these tokens as an incentive to learn. But most of it will go into the hackathons, I would say. And then we also have incentives for referrals. So when people refer to other people, it's sort of the same thing that Dropbox did, or some of the other guys have done in terms of referrals. So referrals will probably go. It's basically in the incentive or development bucket. I mean, these are three different buckets. Development, obviously we are continuing development, and so any future development will need funding and we'll need tokens and we'll need developers like what we have now. So that's part of it. So all of that will come over the period. Reserve is basically all of these three buckets. And reserve has so we won't touch the reserve until the token reaches a certain value. I think we said it was like $10 or something. So we generally don't want to touch the reserve until it reaches that value. And again, that will be distributed among these three things. So I hope that answers and clarifies the question, the difference between different buckets. But it's primarily hackathon incentives, incentive to learn about our technology, and then incentive, referral incentives, and then there could be other incentives that we haven't talked about in terms of an example is how do we get enterprises on board? How do we get MSPs on board? There could be some tokens that we give to enterprises so that they can store data initially, right? So we can give them probably a little bit more than what we gave on the free storage, because free storage, it's not that much for an individual, but for a company, we may have to give a little bit more tokens for them to adopt. All right, what is the release schedule and mechanism in numbers of these? They seem to be static. Not sure what you mean, but I think you mean by the top part. So the top part is static, yes, because they have been vested tokens, and as I said, they're allocated. So they're all team tokens. It's just that they're allocated differently now, and it'll be based on the team decision to see where we can, put in and how much we're gonna put in. It really is something we will monitor how the market behaves and how it responds to tokens. We'll see, how we do in the hackathons, and based on that, we will get an estimate on our token burn based on our different incentive plans that we will have. Okay, on network generated tokens, how is the storage? How is the free storage paid out from the network? As in, which blobbers get this per block? Okay, so I think I understand the question. So we have free storage. Which blobber will get that free storage token? The way it works, it's gonna be random. Okay, so so that all blobbers will get picked randomly. It's basically a fairness protocol where all blobbers are equal. So it'll be picked up by, if you're a blobber on the network, you have as good of a chance as anyone to be picked up by on the allocation. Okay, second question, Wi-Fi validators. Is this still a thing? If not, where are they going and how? So we still have the code. So we already have the code developed, and it's just that we haven't worked on it because we're shelving it because we have six apps coming out, and we have the SDK. So we have a lot of products coming out, and we're low on resources, and so we want to come out with Mainnet, and then we will work on the Wi-Fi validators next. So this will be a post mainnet release, but definitely that's a good market to have. There's only one platform that is doing it. That's Helium. They have been fairly successful in what they're doing. And what we are planned to do is not on the radio part, it'll be on the Wi-Fi part, which is something that they're not doing or not doing as well as we would, and our incentive mechanism will be quite different because we have storage. So we have the storage element that will we will be able to offer a very competitive strategy or offering to the current Wi-Fi validators. And it's a good platform. I think Wi-Fi is something that is truly needed anywhere you go, and there isn't a good solution out there. And an open Wi-Fi, if you can have it with incentivized platform, I think that's where decentralization shines, where we have a clear differentiation, where we have a clear performance, clear cost, and I think we will beat any solution that is currently there. And the only other competition, as I said, is Helium. So it's like, yeah, the market is big, and we will see who comes out at the top end. Okay, question 3. It seems like 4 million tokens for free storage and Wi-Fi alerts are being generated on a block basis, yet there are no clear outline on how they're being paid out. Can you clarify this? Yeah, so the free storage is basically, as I said, it's paid out to the blobbers. They're not generated. So the free storage is not generated. Okay, so let me back up a bit. The free storage tokens are allocations that are. So if I create a free storage allocation, I would get that allocation, and then I have to put in data on that allocation for the blobber to get paid. And even if I don't, they get paid, I think, 25% or something, even if I expire or don't do anything. So that's how that mechanism works. The block rewards do give out rewards on a block by block basis based on the blobber performance relative to other blobbers. Because blobbers, as you know, they earn 3 ways. One is block rewards. The other is through income from the client and income from validating other blobbers, right? So, and again, those are coming from the client. So the free storage tokens that we give out is essentially going from the free storage pool to the blobbers, right? And then on top of that, you're getting the block rewards. So they're different things because blobbers earn in 3 ways, okay? I hope that clarifies it, because I know it's a little bit confusing. Now, the Wi-Fi I don't want to talk about because, again, we don't have it on until later after postnet, mainnet. Okay, other questions. Why is the team getting 4 million block rewards and then dispersing out? This can't be audited since there is no multi-party wallet exists. I don't understand this question, but I'll guess what this might be about. This may be like the team has miners and charters, and so we expect to get block rewards. And then how are we dispersing these block rewards? So a couple of things. One is we're going to open our miner charters to public so anybody can stake from the Bolt app. So it's not like, and we're going to probably charge for little fee, if any. I think there's a minimum fee that we need to charge. I'm not sure. I have to take a look at the minimum and maximum we're setting for the fees. But I believe there is, we're not going to charge any fees, or if anything, it'll be very minimal. So most of it is going to go to the delegators. Now, the delegators could be anyone from the public using the Bolt app. I don't know if that clarifies it. I don't know what the multi-party thing is about. Multi-party wallet. We have a multi-wallet, but that's used for something else, and we are not. I don't think we're releasing it for mainnet. Okay. Why? Second question: why are there 4 ecosystem development funds? Why aren't they being used for free egress and Wi-Fi validators, etc.? As I mentioned, there will be the free storage may not be enough for enterprises, so they will be used for free reads for free storage. So why aren't these? The free egress is something that free egress means free reads, and that's generally encouraged within the protocol. You don't have to. We don't have a protocol where we provide free reads. That's not within our protocol. I don't know if that makes sense. And Wi-Fi validators is something that we have a mechanism from the block, and generally we want to do it from the block as opposed to an allocation because it guarantees income for the providers. All right, so 3 to 10 million tokens, and why is there no more? What happened there? Yeah, I don't understand this question. 10 million tokens are missing. Why is there no multi-party wallet? I don't know what you're referring to be honest here. This question, so maybe we can get some clarification here. But I would suggest you look at this. And there's enough details here, and there's details here to answer your question there. If you have more questions, please feel free. New question. Okay, any concerns for Züs with the appearance of SEC going after proof of stake networks for not registering as a security? So there are 2 things going on. I think the protocol is not something they are going after. They're going after staking service businesses like Kraken or Coinbase or Circle. The staking service business is a little bit different because they're taking custody, and then what happened with FTX. So they basically provide a staking service. Now, what they're doing with your funds is something that's not revealed, and that is where the SEC is going after those folks because they didn't declare it as an investment. They didn't declare it as a risky investment, and there are some laws around on any investment vehicle that you declare. You have to go through a proper SEC offering or approved offering. So that's something that's what they're talking about. I don't think it's about the protocol itself. All right, so let me go back to scene. Okay, so I think I've answered all the questions, and if there are any questions, please feel free to ask me. It looks like there aren't any more. I think there are quite a lot of questions that was asked. That's a good thing, This is the first AMA we had so many questions. Hopefully, in the next by the end of the month, we can release some apps, or definitely by the next AMA, we will target a release of most of the apps, if not all. And you guys get to see it on one network. It'll be on a single network, and you can play around with the apps. So look forward to the next AMA, and until then, have a great week, have a great month, end of February, and hope to see you back next AMA. Thank you, guys.